human mind hates stagnation and having the same thing happen over and over again. A lot of games come out better by having a chance for a positive or a negative result, be it not drawing the card you need for your deck or missing a focus blast on a critical target. The negative results from chance can often feel miserable. Every time I start a new roguelike, during the learning process I feel like I struggle with RNG. Maybe my strategies are too one note, or the timing isn't right for them. In Balatro there's a lot of random elements that can be dissected, but the start already feels quite natural, as everyone is already familiar with poker hands and has an idea of what is a good hand. The scoring system also reflects this, where hands that are rarer and more powerful in poker give a higher baseline score. In Balatro, your hand size is bigger though, so especially flushes, straights and full houses become a lot more powerful in the early game, due to how you can discard cards for new ones. This increases the odds of you finding the hands you want to play early on, before any modifications are done to your deck. Oftentimes I like to play flushes early, and I try to do the maths to understand the chances here on a reroll or two, but this got incredibly complicated. I think the likelihood is just below 50%, but if you do have the answer, please comment down below, because I couldn't wrap my head around this. After every blind in the game, you can start shopping for buffs that impact your score or your hands, to start working towards a victory condition, which is always more score. Adding these multipliers together, there's important choices to be made on what deck to build and how to stack your deck against the odds. All of this is just maths in a very intuitive form. You want to get the number high enough to beat the next blind, and you have a couple of ways to go about it. You can try to boost the high chance hands enough to win, or you can try to build around some lower frequency hands and to warp your deck to make them more probable. And at the core of all of this is that you're intuitively going after good odds to get multiplier stacking and having fun with maths and gambling in a non-destructive manner. Improving at the game is just your intuition on the likelihoods and the number thresholds needed getting better, or understanding stacking multipliers better. Even if you played a lot of Balatro, it doesn't give you a better ground for understanding these topics, but your intuition can still make choices based on it, and I think that's quite interesting. The human mind is so fragile but adapts so well. So is randomness actually fun? Being thrown into some wild events by chance is the most fun I've had in Balatro. Like in one run I had 2 legendaries, and in another run, a banana, a buff that has a 1 in 6 chance to self-destruct after every hand, lasted me for like 30 hands. These highly unlikely outcomes can give a really positive feeling when luck goes your way, but sometimes when the opposite happens it can feel miserable. Like when the banana gets destroyed on the first hand, or when you don't draw the cards you built your deck around. Since there's a lot of deterministic games where chance isn't a factor, like chess and StarCraft, well, only the skill of the player matters, and little attention is placed on any other outside factor, there is still some chance in who you get put up against in the draw. Imagine walking to an open chess tournament and getting placed against Magnus. In a situation like this, you inevitably feel quite unlucky. Even though the game has no luck involved, the circumstances around the game does. Online games that place you in a team environment, like League or CS, don't really have luck-based mechanics in them, but online matchmaking can sometimes evoke the same feeling you get on a bad dice roll. You've been matched with people having bad games against the team on a heater, and it just feels bad. The loss of control over the winning is something that's hard to overcome, and it's easier to blame your teammates than yourself. Having a bad luck outcome to blame is much easier than to constantly keep analyzing and degrading your own performance to improve. This relieves some of the responsibilities from the player and keeps the games more fun, even when it causes frustration outwards, as it's way easier to manage it there than inwards. In games with chance, it's really fun when the game gives you tools to mitigate chances or build options that allow for guarantees. It feels like you're constantly ahead of the game when you ignore the chance-based aspects and get something that can guarantee success. I think Baldur's Gate is a great example of this, where you can build in a lot of ways, and the best builds all have high accuracy and a chance of success. Builds like this are Tavern Ballers, Stealth Archers, and Arcane Acuity Stacking or Spell Save DC. The fun of powerful build is the high chance of success, and they always get where they wanna go when building like this. In Baldur's Gate, every item location is static, meaning if you know how to get the item, you can always go and get it. This can lead to choices in the roleplay of the game being driven by efficiency, which can be quite jarring to some people. But what if we flip this? There's a great mod that adds a lot of items into the game and distributes items randomly. This means that builds can't be looked up anymore, and playing this mod has been really refreshing. Every new item is exciting, and thinking about builds on the fly feels extremely fresh, like I started my first playthrough on that front all over again. Random chance is a core part of roguelikes, and one of the reasons I've grown so attached to them. Fighting together with the odds rather than against them, trying to raise my own chances with skill rather than relying on luck, feels extremely satisfying. Whilst there can be setbacks, I can easily recover from them just by thinking that some choices were off or by putting them down to chance, if I don't wanna contemplate on my own mistakes. The best roguelikes never feel lucky to begin a run once you get used to the game, unless running into some wildly unlikely encounters, which are hilarious on their own right and can be laughed off. This was a shorter video this time around. I've really been in the lab trying to improve the voice quality in the recordings, and I hope that it shows. Next week, we're gonna be looking at Trackmania, a game with zero luck and only skill.